What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Frontline podcast. I'm your host, Tim Riley, aka Reese. I've got an awesome guest with me here today. It is Dead Zone FF. I don't actually know your real name. I don't know if you want to be introduced by that or all I know is Dim
my
Boys
name's
on
Adam.
Sleeper.
I'm Dem Boys DC4L on Sleeper and everywhere else for that matter. So you can just call me Dem Boys. I'm good.
All right, man. Well, we're glad to have you on. We are live right now on the Get Right Fantasy Network, so shout out to them, Mike, Roston, and the boys over there, always helping us out. And they got their sweet Underdog promo, so make sure you go in and check that out over there on their Twitter page. We're kind of in the middle of rookie draft season, and I've got my personal rankings pretty much set in stone, minus like the third round. I keep hopping back and forth on people around there, but we're going to go over some startup ADP. I do have DLF's monthly startup ADP for May pulled up, and we're pretty much just going to be talking about these rookies and how we feel about their placement amongst the veterans in the league in startup drafts for Dynasty.
Yeah.
Why don't you plug yourself up, let people know where they can find you, and what you got going on.
All right. Yeah. At DeadZone_FF on Twitter. The show is going to be called Dead Zone Fantasy Show. Should launch in July, in time for like redraft season to start. As far as a focus for the show during draft season, it's going to focus kind of on those later rounds, those guys that are filling out your bench. And I just kind of live by the fantasy philosophy that, we all know who the studs are. We all know who we're going to start every week in those starting positions. It's who we decide we're going to put in those flex spots that really wins the leagues for us. Who we have for backups when injuries happen. So during the season, it's going to focus a lot on, matchup based flex starts, going to be real analytical for as far as, like what receivers do best against what coverages and that sort of stuff, to help kind of gain an edge and hopefully predict some of those boom weeks from the guys that only have one or two a year, that can help you win a week. I mean, most all the shows focus on, who's your running back one, your running back two, wide receiver one, wide receiver two. And I feel like for those of us who play a lot, we kind of know that. We don't need that information.
Right.
So it's all those other guys that are the hard ones to guess. So I'm going to try and help.
Okay.
For everyone.
So you were talking about basically matchup based plays in your flex, based on whatever defense they're playing and the receivers or running backs and how they match up versus zone, man, whatever it may be. Yeah. So are we looking specifically on like total numbers put up versus a man or a zone, or are we kind of looking more at like success rates in routes versus man or zone?
That kind
of thing.
More on success rates and also like matching offensive schemes versus defensive schemes. So like teams that tend to run more against certain style of defenses or pass more. And then if they're throwing outside or the slot against defenses that like to work certain ways, so that we can kind of decide what positions to start each week in those situations. So, yeah.
Cool, man. Awesome. That's something that's really different. And I like that you're kind of bringing something new to the space, to the community. I think, that's really going to catch on. And I think that's really cool, man.
It should be fun. It's I'm going to learn a lot doing it. Starting to kind of try and figure out some of my own little algorithms and stuff to figure this stuff out. And I'm sure I'll grow a lot throughout the season, figuring it out as well.
Anthony, aka Rasta, said, "What's going on? What's up, man? Glad to see you in the chat." Here on the front line, I like to do a little interviewee kind of thing, just to kind of let the guests or the listeners out there know a little bit more about you and just, kind of give yourself a little background.
Yeah.
So the first question is, how long have you been playing fantasy football?
I've been playing fantasy football really not that long, like 6 years.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Nah, I got in a little late. I mean, I've followed football my whole life, and been real into statistics, but actually playing fantasy, it's been a while.
Okay. What got you started in creating content?
I just got hooked up with the Get Right guys right when they started like modding for their channel and doing a lot of stuff on their sleeper channel, advice wise and stuff, and just, I don't know, kind of came up with this idea of what I've found kind of creates an edge for me and thought I'd share it.
Okay.
So
right
yeah.
on. I like it. It's also finding, I think it's a good little, I wouldn't say like a niche kind of thing, but it's finding what this community tends to be a little bit just overpopulated. I would say it's a lot of echo chamber kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And it's nice to see something that's new and fresh and just providing a different angle at, this game that we're all playing the same way.
Yeah, and that's really what I was looking to provide, because I mean, I can name 50 different podcasts and sites and articles where you can find all of that typical information as far as that top of the lineup stuff.
Right.
And I mean, it's popular, it's especially for novice players. Like early on, that was really good information for me, before I figured out that there's just certain guys you're going to start no matter what, regardless of what the matchup is. You're starting them. And they might have a bad week here and there, but you're never going to sit them. So it's all those other guys that are important, I think.
Okay. What is your preference, redraft or dynasty? I'm pretty vocal about my preference, but what's yours?
I like them both for different reasons. I'd say dynasty just because I like doing it all year. I like year round. I like the, I was always the guy playing Madden who wanted to build the team and do the whole thing, make all the lineup decisions, make all the trades, make all that, and do the whole franchise mode. So that's what it is. It's the same thing, just in a different format. So I like being able to be engaged all year round.
Same here, man. It's definitely dynasty over redraft. Like I don't even remember. Well, I kind of remember how I found dynasty. I think I was just Googling one day. I was like long-term fantasy format or some shit, because I just had that thought of like, dude, there has to be a fantasy football version of Madden. There's got to be a fantasy football version of this franchise mode. Somebody out there has to have done it already. And then I went down the rabbit hole, and here we are, and I'm on a podcast.
Yeah, I heard it somewhere on some podcasts, and I started Googling it, trying to figure out what it was. And as soon as I found out what it was, I started looking for dynasty leagues to join. I don't actually have like a lot of friends here locally that play dynasty, so I hopped on Sleeper and started finding stuff that way. And yeah, I love it. I'm in, I don't know, way too many, 8 or 9 dynasty leagues now. So
those rookie numbers, you gotta get those up.
Yeah.
No, I don't actually have any home leagues either. Like, I have some friends that'll play fantasy. We can do a redraft league, but realistically, I've converted 4 or 5 people to dynasty, and they're starting to see the light. But it's hard to get a group of people to really be invested and interested and committed to a dynasty league.
Yeah, I've tried. I've got a couple friends that have like shown some interest, but nothing's really taken off yet.
It takes a different level of dedication to it, and I just think some people, it takes like a true degenerate to be like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to dedicate this X amount of time and I'm going to do this all year round.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I am full blown fantasy degenerate now. I mean, I'm doing mocks in like February with the guys from Get Right. It's just ridiculous, but I love it.
What's your preferred roster construction? Because we're talking about startup ADP, right? And concerns to these rookies. So what's your preferred way to build your roster?
It really depends. I'm pretty fluid on it. It kind of depends on what position I'm picking from. If I'm towards the back end of the draft, I kind of let the front of the draft determine where I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they're going real quarterback heavy in a super flex, I might actually hold off on quarterback for a little while and try and snag some of those top wide receivers. I really just kind of go for a best player available for the first couple rounds, and then kind of go from there. See what I've got on my first 2 or 3 guys, and then decide on my strategy for that draft. I mean, of course I go in thinking I'd really love to have this guy in this spot when I know where I'm picking, but I try not to hold myself to something where I end up stuck.
Right. And that's really important. You know, Wilson says, what's going on, Wilson? Glad to have you in the chat. That's really important when jumping into a startup, especially for a new person into Dynasty, that it's okay to have a specific strategy in mind, how you want to build your team. However, you can't be beholden to committing to that strategy for the entire draft. People get picked way above value, way below value, such and such, and you have to be fluid with what you're able to do with your team. And it's not necessarily, I don't believe necessarily in best value available, but I do believe in going with the flow of the draft and turning left when everybody else is turning right.
Yeah.
I think that can give you definitely a competitive edge in your league.
Yeah. And one thing I've found for myself in Dynasty is I try not to go in with like an idea on age of roster.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's going where I end up having to go with an older team, well, then I'll just commit to winning that first year or two and then deal with the aftermath a year or two later. But I'm not going to just go young just because it's the thing to do if that's not going to give me my best team.
Right.
I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win every single season. I hate doing rebuilds. I'm in the middle of a couple right now and I hate it, but sometimes you end up having to do that. But that's because I drafted those older teams and now it's time to punt and start over.
I prefer to punt from the jump. It's so hard for me to take over an orphan and rebuild or just have this team already set, because at that point it becomes much harder to trade for draft picks. You're trading, you're not trading from the board. You're trading this player for this draft pick, and everybody's going to have different values on how they, or just thoughts, on how they feel about somebody.
And I normally prefer to trade for players if I can,
right,
rather than trade for draft picks if it's possible. But I mean, I'm in one right now where that just wasn't an option, and I actually just decided it's going to be a 3-year rebuild, and I started trading for all the 24 and 25 picks that I could. I didn't even try to get any this year. I ended up with a couple, but I decided I was just going to maximize value and go for a couple of years from now and maybe be able to turn those picks into proven players in a year or two.
Right. I'm unlike you. I don't want players in a rebuild. I want picks. Because it's flat value that only accrues over time. And especially with the 24 class, I know a lot of people say the next class is always better, but I've done a little bit of research into this 24 guys, and this 24 class is actually like, as long as everybody gets the draft capital, the talent level at the top end of the first round of 24 is a lot of elite people. Like there's a Justin Jefferson prospect, there's a Trevor Lawrence prospect, there's all these kind of guys that are just on a different level than 23 was. And I don't know, I'm especially interested in the 24 class. So in a lot of startups, I'm punting immediately and just grabbing 24 picks because I think it's going to hit like a lotto, but who knows?
Yeah, and that's all it kind of is a big gamble. And then when next year comes, hopefully they hit, and if not, then it's another year back.
Yep. Anthony says I kind of like picking up an orphan team because it's a challenge to try to resurrect. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I got one orphan, and it's taken me 2 full years to get a competitive roster going. And it's
that one I took in the Frontline, it's going to be a little bit. It's going to take some doing to rebuild that one, but I mean, I made some moves at the rookie draft, and I'm at least have a team to roster now. It was looking rough at the beginning.
Oh yeah, you got salt. I mean, I messed up my league or my team in that league as well. Just I wanted to go really ceiling plays, so I drafted like Allen Robinson. I drafted like 4 or 5 players that really just didn't hit whatsoever, and it really sunk my team that year or last year. And now we're getting back on track. I made a couple moves, like a couple trades. I'm trying to trade roster right now if he'll give me Joe Mixon for a second, but he's being a little stingy. It is what it is.
I'm in a couple dynasty leagues with him. We call him the dentist. He takes some work to get value out of him.
Right.
You got to find those guys he loves and then take advantage of it.
Oh, I will. Just give it some time. It doesn't look like he's a very big guy on draft picks, because I feel like Joe Mixon for a second is pretty solid. I don't know where else somebody like, you're not going to get a first for Joe Mixon. You know what I mean?
Not now. And some of those guys, I like to just wait myself. Like I have one team where I've got like Henry and Eckler and Diggs, and it's definitely time to try and start that rebuild, but I haven't even tried to move them yet. I'm going to wait until midseason when there's a contender that had a running back go down or something. And that's where I find the value in those older guys. Someone who's trying to win and is desperate. Then I can pull a first off of them.
Yeah, I know. Anthony said he hasn't rejected it yet. Yeah, I know, man. It's been sitting for 3 days. Let's do something.
He'll let you sweat it out for a little while and see if he can get you to throw something else on.
I mean,
if you have Justin Ross, he'll take Justin Ross. That'll add a lot of value to it.
Hey, you can take Justin Ross.
That's the guy he's shooting for right now.
Let's get into the meat and bones of the episode today. I got DLF's May Startup ADP up right now, and first off the rip, we got, this is what, 1 QB ADP, whatever, doesn't matter. Let's pull up Superflex because I'm a Superflex guy, and
me too, mainly.
Well, you're smart, man. I like it. 1 QB is a dying breed. It's not where it's at anymore. So we got Bijan Robinson here at the 110 for Startup ADP. How you feeling about that?
I don't know. I mean, I believe in Bijan. I don't think he should be the first running back off the board yet, even in a startup. I mean, I don't hate it, though, because there's really not a lot of young running backs out there that you can count on. I mean, we've got Brees, we've got Javonte. They've both got injury coming off an injury, don't know exactly how they're going to respond. So I can see it. I just am probably going with someone like ETN or something like that, where I've at least seen him do it, you know?
Right.
I think McCaffrey in San Francisco actually has 3 more good years probably. So he's my top.
Well,
Right
McCaffrey's going in. He's going into his age 27 season. So, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on that running back age cliff. I think it's 27, 26 or 27, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe in it, but I mean, I am weary of running backs older than 26.
I believe in it a little, but like in that particular offense and how much they'll use him in the passing game, I just think there's so much value there. I mean,
right.
They could, who knows, Shanahan could in a year or two just decide he's a slot receiver and not really his running back. And I mean, I doubt it, but you never know with that guy. He does all sorts of crazy stuff with his players.
Well, it looks here, I pulled up, just the running back just to kind of see the age comparison of these next couple running backs kind of in that same tier. It's pretty much a full round difference between Bijan and the RB2, Jonathan Taylor, Jonathan Taylor's younger than I thought. He's only 24. I don't know how I quite feel about Anthony Richardson being there for Jonathan Taylor. Another subject for another day.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm okay with Bijan being the RB1 right now, but I think people really should temper their expectations for him this year.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't think he's going to get a lot of receiving work. Not that he can't do it, obviously. I just don't think in that Atlanta offense, there's going to be a lot of dump offs for Bijan, especially, Cordero Patterson is still there. I'm not saying he's going to be effective by any means, but I do think they are going to use him in somewhat of a receiving role that could take away from Bijan. I don't know how you feel about Tyler Algier. I think he's still going to see some work. He did run for like 1,000 yards last year.
They're going to use him. I don't think they want to wear out Bijan right now because they know they're not winning anything yet.
Yeah. It wouldn't make sense. I mean, you have Tyler Algier on a rookie contract. He was decent last year, and I expect to see him get about like 20% of the workload, maybe something like that, mixed in with Patterson getting another 15 or something like that, just to not put a full 100% workload on Bijan in his rookie season, possibly injuring him or anything like that.
Yeah. And if they're fully committed to this Desmond Ridder experiment too, like if they stick with that the whole season, I don't see there being a whole lot of dump offs. I think Ritter's panic is going to be to run rather than to find his check down. And maybe later in the season he'll learn his lesson a little bit if they give him time to figure that out, and he'll get start looking for those checkdowns then. But I think at first, like, it's going to be a steep learning curve for that guy.
I agree. Anthony says, I think CMC will be drafted as a top 5 to 10 running back for the next 3 years. May slip from being number 1 overall, but still one of a kind. Yeah. Pretty much. The upside is, unless he injures himself in like a very dramatic fashion, I don't see him not producing as a top 10 running back. Top 10 at least for the next 2 to 3 years. So,
and really, if you can get a guaranteed top 10 producer, it's worth a first round pick.
Absolutely.
There's not many of those out there,
and it'll probably cost you what, like Cam Akers in the first might be able to get CMC.
Maybe, yeah,
it might be, or throw a second on top. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
these guys are available. The running backs. I would wait till in season because I'm more risk averse myself, and anything can happen in training camp, like we saw with Travis Etienne 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and Dobbins got hurt
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see it all the time. It happens constantly. So that's the thing with running backs. I mean, any position in the NFL, but running backs especially.
Yeah.
None of them. I mean, they're all a gamble. No matter how good they are, no matter how young they are, they're all a gamble.
Right. I think we'll talk about some of these rookies. Let's get into the QB. Where is he? Wow, really? Okay. I thought Anthony Richardson would be the QB1, but right now it's CJ Stroud at pick 18, the QB12. So in between, it's AJ Brown, Tua, Waddle, and CeeDee Lamb. Bryce Young are all kind of in that area. What are your thoughts on CJ Stroud at the 17th? That would be what, the 205?
207. I'm okay with that. I mean, Stroud, I think long term, I like him better than Bryce. I think I'm taking the gamble on Richardson though, just on the athleticism for fantasy purposes. I think Stroud will be the best NFL quarterback, but I think Richardson's his ceiling for fantasy purposes is just ridiculous. So it's worth the gamble for me to do that. But I'm definitely taking Stroud over Young myself personally.
It's really weird for me, right? In a rookie draft, I'm okay with taking Anthony Richardson over all these guys. But in a startup draft, I want a little bit more security with my quarterback, especially that high. And every other quarterback is available after him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would just like a little bit more security with, my second round pick at 205. And so that's why I agree. I'm taking CJ Stroud right here.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's the safest long-term pick of all of the rookie QBs for sure.
Really, like what his ceiling is kind of where it's at. His ceiling is Dak Prescott, for me at least.
Yeah.
Like I don't see him really being much better than that.
Yeah. I mean, but like Dak, Tua, that type of quarterback where if you have the players around him, I mean, they're going to be top 10, top 12.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to win you a lot of weeks, but they're not going to lose you many either. So I'm fine with that. So you were talking about cost of McCaffrey. I just was looking because I got McCaffrey during the draft earlier. So I got McCaffrey and Rodgers and in a super flex and 2025 firsts for Lamb, a 2024 first and a 2024 second.
Run that back one more time.
So I got Rodgers, McCaffrey, and 2 2025 firsts for Lamb, a 2024 first and second.
That's pretty solid. You get 225 first? Yeah, I'll take that.
And then I flipped McCaffrey after that too and got a couple more 25 firsts.
Going all in on 25. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the league where I decided like it's going to be a while.
Right.
Actually, for McCaffrey, I got the 108 and the 212 this year, a 2025 first and a 24 second. So that 108, that 108 ended up being QJ, and I forget who I got on that 212. Actually, I think I traded that 212 later on for to move up to get Hooker.
That's not bad.
So
Martin says CJ Stroud actually has better weapons going into this year over AR. I disagree, but like with all my heart. But I can kind of see how someone might think that, given No, I don't see it. I take that back. AR's got Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. Alec Pierce is pretty decent. They just drafted Josh Downs, and they have realistically that O-line was bad last year, but it's still the same O-line that was one of the top O-lines the year prior. You know what I mean? It's still the same core people. So it's hard for me to see Stroud having better weapons, but it's just all around the offense was better in Indianapolis for me. I think they just had a really off year with who's the coach that got fired in Indy?
Reich.
Yeah, Frank Reich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then bringing in Saturday was
scapegoat.
Yeah, that was not effective.
Anthony says he flipped him to me in a 3-way, got the picks from Mike, and I paid Sanders and Pittman.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was an interesting trade. Series of trades there in that situation. But that's another thing I like to do too, is wait until the draft is actually going.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like I can get more value then than before. As people start getting taken and people decide that they don't want to miss out on their guy, sometimes you can talk them out of a little bit more.
Right. So we got Bryce Young right here at QB 14, pick 20. So that would be the 208? 208, I believe. Yeah. So 208, couple spots behind CJ Stroud. For me, that's about right. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah. Other than I would take Richardson before I'd take Young for sure.
Fair enough.
It's not really the height thing with Young. It's the weight. Like I don't see him. I don't know. He's going to have to bulk up or he's going to get hurt a lot. He's
got some time, he's got all off season to put in. What does he need? Like 10, 15 more pounds or so?
Yeah.
20 pounds would be nice, but realistically putting on that muscle, probably get 10 to 15.
If he could come in at 210 and a strong 210, not I ate pancakes for the last 2 months, 210.
Right. Anthony Richardson sitting here at 24th, so right there. He's got an ADP of 26, so that'd put him right there at the beginning of the third. QB 15, that might be a little low for me. I kind of like him at QB 15. That's when I start to, okay, this guy's got potential. Compared to what you're paying for a quarterback anyway, you're spending a first, second round pick. If you can get Anthony Richardson, who has a ceiling of Jalen Hurts to break fantasy. I don't think he'll ever be a great passer because I've watched him throw in college and I just don't see it personally. But
there's a lot of mechanics that have to be fixed there. A lot.
So many. Like
his footwork's terrible.
And people talk about Justin Fields isn't a great passer, but Justin Fields, he wasn't known as a runner when he came out of college. Right? If you go look at his pros and cons from college, they all talk about his ability to throw in the pocket. He can escape the rush, but it's not about him being an electric runner or anything like that. He was drafted for his ability to throw in the pocket. He just didn't have a pocket. He had 2-3 seconds to throw the ball. Like, it was ridiculous. Anyways, off on a tangent. This is where I start liking Anthony Richardson right here.
I think anywhere once you get into the QB2 range, I'm good with taking Anthony Richardson. Once you get past QB12, I'm good with him. Yeah.
All right, pulling up our next rookie. Oh my God. Jackson Smith and Jigba is sitting here at the wide receiver 12, ADP of 37. So right there at the end of the third.
Yeah.
Beginning of the fourth. I'll let you go first, man.
JSN, I like him long term. I don't like him this year, but in a startup, I think that's about right. I think that's worth it, taking him there. He's right there with London and Devontae Smith as far as young guys. Above DK. I might even take him over T. Higgins.
Okay.
Probably not. He's probably good right there, right after T. Higgins. I'd take him over London, though, I think. I think he's more talented than London, and overall, I think his situation's better. It's not better this year, but
Right.
Mockett's only got a couple more years left in him, and Seattle's a better organization overall. So,
yeah. All right. So Martin says, "My bad. I was thinking he was on the Panthers. Ignore what I said." Fair enough. We all get those brain farts every now and then. I was like, yeah, man. I just don't see Houston being better than Indianapolis offensively. Left a rookie draft today with Young at 103. Roman left a rookie draft with Young at 103. Stroud at 106. Ooh, 6-point pass TD. Hey, especially if you need the quarterback help. I wouldn't have been afraid to go Gibbs.
If Gibbs was there at 103, that's who I'd have went.
Right. Knowing that, well, no, because 4 or 5. Yeah. He would have been, if he would have went Gibbs at 103, then you're essentially throwing away the possibility of getting a quarterback. You know, he got lucky and Stroud fell, but if Stroud wouldn't have fallen, then he would have been left without a quarterback at the 106. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit risky. Every draft is different. You got to know your league mates and hope everything falls in the right order.
I've seen some craziness. I just saw today, it's a super flex draft, but a draft I'm in, I saw it Hooker go at 109. I was like, that is ridiculous.
What?
I mean, I'm a Hooker fan. I'm picking him up where I can. I think that there definitely is a lot of bust potential, but I think his ceiling's fairly high too. So I'm taking the risk on him, but not at 109. That's
no,
crazy.
I'm not spending a first on Hooker. I'll do a mid-second. Mid-second, I could probably do that, but that's about it. Especially with rumors of Jared Goff getting an extension. We'll kind of see how that goes. But it's that's too much. Jason's too high for me here, actually. I think not saying I don't like JSN, you know what I mean? He's gonna be an electric player, but it's not gonna be this year, and that's not baked into this price. You know what I mean? So he's gonna drop after this season. You know, you'll probably be able to get him probably around wide receiver 18, 17, 18 when he doesn't perform as, you know, a top 25 guy this year. And it's just, to me, it's bad value. Granted, if you plan on holding Jays, like if you take him here, you have to hold because you're never going to be able to get that price, you know? So,
I think if I'm going to take him there, it's got to be a luxury pick sort of situation where, you know, I've already went with a strategy of taking wide receivers early, and I've already got 2 good ones. He has to be my wide receiver 3 or lower for me to take him.
Yeah, it's at that price, you know, you're tanking it. You have to tank this year at that wide receiver 12 price. It's just too much for me. Robin says, "Was hoping for Young and JSN or Gibbs. Both got taken before at 106. Yeah, Bijan, A-Rich, Young, Gibbs, Jason, Stroud. Yeah, I've seen that happen a few times, and it happens to the best of us, man. The good thing is, right, you got 2 quarterbacks that you can just use as leverage. I would, at that point, right, especially if I assume you have 2 other quarterbacks on your roster, that gives you 4 quarterbacks, and that gives you an ability to start dictating the way your league mates are going to have to value quarterbacks. You know, you just got to make it work for the best of you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any, it's like QB heavy rosters where I have one roster where I own like 6 quarterbacks and literally everybody's trying to buy them for like a normal price. And they think they can outlast me, but really it's a cheap league. So I don't care about winning the money. It's just one of those leagues that I'm going to test out this strategy and make you guys pay up.
I've got a couple, and then I have one league where, like, going into the draft, I literally had no starting quarterback just because of bad luck, really. But it's rough in that one. But then, I have one. I think we're at 5. I think that's the heaviest I am is with 5.
get more. If you can dictate the way your league mates have to value quarterbacks, even if they don't want to pay, like that's fine. But when it gets to the championship and it gets to the playoffs, I promise you that owner will not feel good about rolling into the championship game with Daniel Jones and Jared Goff as their quarterback, or Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell. You know what I mean? Like nobody's going to feel good about that, regardless of how your position players. You could have Tyreek Hill and Jamar Chase and all these stacked guys, but if your quarterbacks look ugly, you're not going to feel confident heading into that game.
Yeah. And them and running backs, I'm good with hoarding.
Mm-hmm.
But it does. I'm also not going to go out of my way to take a bunch. I've seen some people do that, go super quarterback heavy in startups, and I just don't like being thin everywhere else because of it. But if the value's right and I end up being able to, still have a good RB 1 and 2 and receiver 1 and 2, and then some quarterbacks happen to fall, I'll start swooping them up then.
So with that strategy, right? Obviously, how I play it is I want to collect a lot of those immediate handcuff running backs, because these guys are so volatile that, hey, you can have a spot start running back by week 2. You could have 3 starting running backs by week 5. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or you can sell them, and once again, you make these guys. Dalvin Cook is out for the season. You got Madison. You can make the owner pay you a draft pick, pay you a second for Alexander Madison, or trade you a startable wide receiver. Who knows? But you got to make these things work for you. He said he got Addison at 108. Addison at 108, solid. I prefer Quentin Johnston myself, but to each their own. Johnston probably went 107 if you got Addison at 8.
Yeah, probably with who all he said went there. I mean, the only other person I can think of that maybe would have is if someone jumped up for Levis or something, but
nah. I'm going to assume that didn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. That's what we're here for. I appreciate you stopping by. Let's get back into it. We talked about Jason at the wide receiver 12. And then next we got Jahmyr Gibbs as the RB 11, ADP of 50. So that puts him right at the beginning of round 5. Yeah.
I'm good with that.
That's a value.
Round 5 for Gibbs is good.
Look,
great.
I don't know what your thoughts are on Gibbs personally. Me, myself, Gibbs should be like running back 7. Yeah, I've got him like right below Saquon myself.
Let's see. I'd have ETN over him. I'd have that's probably it though. I'd have him right after ETN.
All right, so you got Gibbs over Eckler, Jacobs, Najee.
Yeah.
So you got him at what, RB8?
Yeah. In a startup, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just think even at the RB8, he's a good value. I think we're looking at a guy who's going to see elite level, Austin Eckler level receiving work out of the backfield. Maybe not Austin Eckler level, a little bit less. Let's dial it back, come back to earth. But DeAndre Swift saw 70 targets, and I think he missed 4 games or so, and he was just completely hated by that whole coaching staff.
Yeah, because then even when he did play, he was, 20-30% snap share and still got that?
Yeah, so I don't think it's out of the question that Jahmyr Gibbs gets 100 targets.
No, and they drafted him to be the guy.
Yeah, you don't use
taking him at 112. Yeah. I mean, they could have had him later.
They had the 18th pick. That was the crazy part.
They said they were scared of someone taking him. No one was taking him before 18. They could have.
I was like, why reach at 12 when you can reach at 18? It doesn't make sense. But
yeah, and I've heard a at least one interview on the Green Light Pod with Dan Campbell, and he said they were scared someone was going to take him before 18, so they took him. But I mean, if you're doing that, you're going to use him. They drafted him to be the guy. He's going to be the guy. Even though they have Monty there, like Gibbs, that's his backfield.
We never expected Gibbs to see this goal line work anyways.
No,
like that's just not for him. So I don't think it's out of the question. Jahmyr Gibbs finishes top 8. I think it should be the projection that he's like a top 10 to 8 running back for fantasy this year. I think people are massively undervaluing this guy. And then once he does put up these numbers, I think you're going to see him right there in that Saquon Barkley, CMC, Breece Hall tier.
Yeah. Next year, that's where he'll be going. Yeah.
Yep.
He definitely will. If he stays healthy this year, that's where it'll be next year.
Right. As long as he stays healthy. Next, we got wide receiver 29. Woof. Wide receiver 29, we got Jordan Addison at 79. So I'm not good at math, and that's what 5 times 12 is 60.
Yeah, 72, 7. So mid 7th.
Yeah, mid 7th. He's right there. These are the receivers going next to him. Jameson Williams, 26. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver 27. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 28. Jordan Addison, wide receiver 29. Jahan Dotson, wide receiver 30. Quentin Johnson, 31. I got Quentin Johnson ahead of Addison.
Yeah.
And I would probably put both of these guys ahead of Jeudy. Actually, I'll put them both ahead of Pickens and Jameson Williams. So I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I'd switch up that order a little bit. I'd have Quentin Johnson ahead of Pickens and Williams.
I have both these guys up here with like DJ Moore, which is wide receiver 21.
Yeah, I'm high on Ayuk though. I think I'd still have Ayuk ahead of him.
Okay.
But and Addison, I don't know. I
mean, Addison's in the best position to succeed this year for whatever that is worth to you. So I think he'll be a great sell high kind of guy. Just like
29, wide receiver 29 is not a bad spot for him.
I think it's way too low for both of these guys.
But Quentin Johnson needs to be higher. I have him above. And that might be a next year thing before you see the payoff on him. I think he's going to have a good season this year, but I don't think it's going to be great until Williams and Allen are out of there but Williams doesn't really stay healthy, so he could very easily get his chance. Allen's had some injury issues lately too. He's getting older. Yep. So I mean, it could pay off this year, but he would be more of an investment for next year for me. But I think just having him there in that offense, what I think that offense is going to look like now this year, and with Herbert throwing the ball, I mean, he could be a top 5 receiver in 3 years. Easy.
That's my thoughts. The ceiling for Quentin Johnston is like top 10 dynasty receiver, maybe higher, maybe in the 10 to 5 range.
I mean, as guys start to age out, like Adams and Diggs and Tyreek, I mean, I really think in 3 years, unless someone kind of comes out of the middle of nowhere, it could be Jefferson, Chase, and him at the top.
I mean, we've seen people come out of the woodworks before. AJ Brown shot up there. He was a great receiver. We already knew he was good, but I didn't see him being a top 5 guy. Garrett Wilson shot up out of nowhere. I didn't see him. I mean, he's too high for me personally because he just hadn't done it yet. But
once Tyreek's gone, Waddle's probably going to make a big jump.
Yeah, I mean, Waddle's 5 right now, but he could easily roll into the wide receiver 3. I really don't see anybody taking the wide receiver 1 or 2 for a good minute unless one of these Jefferson or Chase, one of these guys get hurt.
That fight for 3 is going to have a few guys in it though, and I think Quentin Johnston's one of them that'll be in there.
Personally, so Johnston's wide receiver 31, Addison 29. I'm throwing, both of those guys over Ayuk for me, over Judy, Williams, Pickens, McLaurin, Burks, Godwin, DJ Moore. Right in the middle.
I think he's got a way higher ceiling than Watson now.
I don't know. Just because
I like
Christian Watson's really good, and he hasn't stayed healthy in his lone year, so we don't really know what his ceiling could be. I think he could be great. Kind of has the same build as Quentin Johnston. I don't think he quite has the same move set after the catch ability. So I'll put both of them above Christian Watson right there in that wide receiver 20 range.
It's situation that changes that for me. Watson, it could be great, but reality is none of us have any idea what that Green Bay offense is going to look like. We've seen it one way for the last 15 years. Who knows what it's going to be now? It could be really good. Love could be awesome, but we have no idea.
DB Coop, what's going on, brother? Glad to have you in. Everybody in, make sure you guys drop a sub to the Fantasy Frontline podcast YouTube page and the Get Right Fantasy Network, unless you're watching over there. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. Give me 1 second. We are going to talk. Zach Charbonnet is the RB18, sitting at ADP of 80. Why don't you go ahead and give me your thoughts on that? And I have to talk to the wife real quick.
Oh, you're good. I don't know what to think about Charbonnet right now. Like I like the talent. I like the player. I don't know what it's going to look like with Walker there in Seattle. It's kind of a confusing landing spot for me with Charbonnet. I'm not sure what to think about him right now. That ADP is not terrible. Like, he's worth taking a shot there, but I don't know. I wish he'd went somewhere else. That's all I really know about Charbonnet. Is I'm quite upset with the landing spot, and I was excited about him, and who knows, he could. Seattle runs the ball enough; they could easily support both him and Walker. At the times that they actually had, which was very rare when they actually had Penny and Carson both healthy, both of them were viable running backs. So it could happen. But
I don't know. I think the ceiling
the spot.
I don't like it either. I think the ceiling for both of these guys are very capped. But Charbonnet can do a lot of the things that Walker can't do. And I think Charbonnet is pretty decent value right here. He's going to get some work. They gave him pretty much the same draft capital that they gave Kenneth Walker. So they had a year to see Walker and see what he can do. And obviously, I take it as the Seahawks weren't happy with the full skill set of Kenneth Walker. And so that's why they bring in Charbonnet to complement that. And, Walker's a little bit more explosive. He's a better runner, so we can see him more in the red zone. But passing situations, you're probably going to see Charbonnet. Both of these guys are probably going to be mid to low RB2s, depending on injuries at the running back position. But it's still a little – you look at the guys next to him, Derrick Henry. He's ahead of Derrick Henry, Rachaad White. I'll take Rachaad White over Charbonnet. Miles Sanders. Take Sanders over Charbonnet. That's where I draw the line. So I've got him more around RB22. I think we could be looking at an Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon kind of situation.
Yeah, which
I mean,
was
Jones is
okay until last year.
Jones is RB1 still, but it's just I don't really know how it's going to work out. It's going to be interesting because Charbonnet is not bad. He's more of a bruiser than Kenneth Walker is, but Kenneth Walker's, like I said, more explosive and better in between tackles.
Yeah.
BB Coop, appreciate the sub, man. El Chivo, okay. Now I know the name. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, he better be subbed.
Martin says, I think they use both of them as a good duo back, like Carroll, like his running backs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Walker between the pylons, and then Charbonnet as a goal line back. I've kind of got it the other way around. I've got Walker as more of the goal line, red zone back, and then passing situations. I've got Charbonnet in there. Passing situations and just like every other play. I don't know, depending on game flow and game script, however they're going to run it. I never know what's going on with Pete Carroll.
No. I mean, he will run the ball a lot, but beyond that, who it's going to be and how that split's going to be, I think, I don't know. It's going to take a few games to figure that out.
Let's look into our next rookie. We got Zay Flowers at the wide receiver 39. So that's down there. The guys next to him: Damian Pierce, Christian Kirk, Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, Aaron Jones, Desmond Ritter. Why don't you go ahead and give me your thoughts on Zay? I know a lot of people love Zay. I don't know if you're one of those guys or not.
No, I'm not. I'm not one of those guys that's super high on Zay, and I'm not high on him in that offense, especially not this year. Maybe down the road, but I mean, Andrews is he's the wide receiver one, even though he's tight end. Like, he is the guy there. Bateman, we don't know, but I think his ceiling is still there. If he stays healthy, I like Bateman over Zay. And I mean, they paid OBJ for a reason. He's going to be on the field. He's going to play a lot. So whether or not he's going to be what he once was, I don't know. But if even a little bit of that's there, it's going to cap Flowers' ceiling for sure. And I don't know. I don't think we're going to pass enough.
Well, Rashad Bateman's right there at the wide receiver 40. One thing so prior to the draft, I wrote up a Rashad Bateman buy article. I've talked about it a few times where they bring in Todd Monken, who is the previous offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2018. And in that time, Tampa Bay had a top 5 passing offense in the NFL. I'm not saying, Baltimore is going to be a top 5 offense, but I think we can pretty much, I'll call it a lock. That they're at least average middle of the pack or better.
Yeah.
Like a top 15 passing offense. I don't think we're going to see nearly as many runs, but I think we're going to see more high value touches for somebody like J.K. Dobbins. If Rashad Bateman stays healthy, he's my wide receiver 1 over there. Zay Flowers is a nice playmaker that, you kind of get this guy the ball in open space, but realistically, he's just too small for me. I do not like small receivers. I'm a sizist, whatever you want to call me, but I do not like these guys because it's hard when you go up against a bigger cornerback that, how are you going to get off the line unless you're really shifty and really good with your moves? Zay Flowers is really shifty and he can make people miss, but I don't know if he'll have the strength to really deal with a bigger second cornerback for these NFL defenses. It's going to be a big step up, and I kind of like him right here, but I wouldn't take him much higher. To me, we'll look at the next two wide receivers next to him. It's Christian Kirk and Rashad Bateman, and I'm taking both of them over Zay Flowers.
Definitely. I'm definitely taking both of them over Zay Flowers. And yeah, he is. I mean, size is a big deal. And I hear a lot of people talk about, slot receivers kind of being the new thing. But the successful slot receivers, like, they're not small. Cooper Kupp is not small. Amon-Ra is not small. Godwin
and not
is
even
small.
that.
Like, none of them. They're good sized receivers. And
yes,
I
think they're both 6 foot or something like that.
Yeah, Kupp 6'2", I think, and Amon-Ra's 6'1", I believe. I mean, they're decent size. And Godwin, all of these ones that people like to point to that have been successful lately, like, yes, they're successful in the slot, but they're still decent sized receivers. They're not small guys.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think he'll be okay, but I don't think he's gonna flash numbers. I think he'll flash talent, but talent doesn't always correlate to production, especially in fantasy.
Yeah. And in rookie drafts, like, I'm taking Kincaid over. I'm taking him.
I don't do first round tight ends in rookie drafts, but I understand.
Yeah. And I mean, really the reality is right now in rookie drafts, if I'm not picking 108 or higher, I'm doing everything I can not to pick in the first round.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Once Addison and Quentin Johnson are gone, like, I'm done.
Yeah. That's where my cutoff is.
I'm trading into the second, Let's head into the next rookie. I don't want to do too many, so let's we're now at Josh Downs at the wide receiver 43. Let's hit Hendon Hooker at QB 32 is the next one. Instead of just going down the list and hitting like every rookie as they show up, which they should be showing up fairly often right here. Let's hit some of your favorites. I know we didn't plan for that or anything, but let's talk about some of your favorite rookies.
Hyatt right there is one that I'm excited about just because of the situation. Like, that wide receiver room is extremely full, but no one owns it. And so he has plenty of opportunity to take it over. I mean, he's a little undersized. Height-wise, he's all right, and he can probably put on some weight. I mean, in the NFL, it's a little easier to do just with the trainers and the ability to control your diet more. You have the money to do it, to hire a chef that can put on some pounds.
Must be nice. Now, I do like Jalen Hyatt. I think Wan'Dale's the man in this offense. I see Hyatt as more of a just because I don't know if you checked out Matt Harmon. He does his reception, whatever. And really just he goes in route by route for these wide receivers, and he measures the success by each route. And really, there's just not a lot that Hyatt's done. He's just a deep field stretcher, and he was schemed open a lot. It's one of those guys where it's analytics versus film, where you're looking at his film and you're like, dude, how is this guy wide open every touchdown he gets? And so for me, it's just a concern that I don't know if he can run routes just well enough at the next level. But
and maybe he can, but
I don't know.
He can. That could also. I don't put as much stock into a receiver's route tree coming out of college, because sometimes it's just so scheme based on this is just what they asked of him. It doesn't mean that he can't do more. So until I see a little bit of what his actual ability is in the NFL, in being able to expand that route tree, like, I think a lot of them have it in them and they just were never asked to do it. So I don't put as much stock into that at a college level.
Right. For me, it was the same argument with Kenneth Walker and his catching ability. It's not that he couldn't catch. We don't know if he could catch or not, because that's not what they do at Michigan State, like, so it's a little bit of the same argument for a wide receiver. I do like Jalen Hyatt. I think they kind of got a value on him, I believe, at the beginning of the third round. And it's going to be interesting to see how they involve him in his offense and what his role is going to be.
Yeah, I just think there's plenty of opportunity for him to take that wide receiver room. I don't think anyone owns it yet. I do like Wandale. He is probably my pick to take it, but I mean, they've got a giant room full of mid-tier receivers. And then they've got Wandale and Hyatt, who we don't really know what they are yet. So they can, they could be elite. We know that everyone else there probably isn't going to be.
Yeah.
They've had the opportunities to.
Yeah. I'm gonna go in here and we're gonna talk about Roschon Johnson, one of my favorite rookies coming out. He's currently the RB38, ADP of 139, whatever the math is on that. It's got to be at least the 11th round.
Yeah,
it's got at least the 11th round, and that's a steal for me. I think this is one of those. I don't know who is it, JJ Zacharyson. He talks about ambiguous backfields. Chicago, definitely one of those where you just don't know who's going to be the guy there. Somebody at some point is going to emerge. I always put my money on the rookie in these backfields. Really, realistically, it could be, him, OntaForeman, or it could be Khalil Herbert. They're all good running backs. Foreman's finally getting back to form from that torn Achilles. And for me, I just put my money on the rookie just to see what he can do. The youngest guy, the regime brought him in. I believe they used a fourth-round pick, like early fourth-round pick on him. If it wasn't for being behind Bijan, Roschon, we would be talking about him. We would have consensusly agreed Bijan was a top 5 running back. And Roschon hasn't even been playing running back for that long. He got brought on to Texas. He was a quarterback when he was recruited. And so he's only been playing running back for like 2 or 3 years, 4 years or something like that. He's still got a lot to learn. He's 6 foot, 219. And I like his ability, his chances, opportunities to take over that backfield and show what he can do.
Yeah, he's worth taking a shot on for sure, especially that late. Like, anyone there is just, you're taking upside, and he has a fairly clear path to a high ceiling.
Right.
Doesn't mean it's going to manifest, but there's definitely all the opportunity in the world, and he's got the talent. He's got the size. It could easily all line
up. Let's hit on let's do one more piece. You talk about one more rookie, and then I'll hit one more rookie.
I mean, sticking with running backs, Kendre Miller, just because I think that's kind of the same sort of thing, a very ambiguous backfield at the moment, because, I mean, we've got Williams there, but he's never really shown that he can be the guy. He's always, I think there's a reason that he's always kind of been the number 2. He's got ability, but I don't think he's got ability to carry a backfield on his own. And Kamara didn't look great last year, and I don't know how much of that was the offense and how much of that was, did he lose a step? But also, he's going to have some sort of a suspension. So Miller has the same sort of opportunity that Johnson does to step in and take that backfield and show that he can be the guy. So he's one that I'm taking a shot on too. for running backs. I think his ceiling is just as high as anyone else's rookie wise, except for Bijan. I don't think anyone has the ceiling that Bijan does. But other than that,
I think Gibbs can do it, but
yeah, Gibbs can.
We'll see.
But I still don't think Gibbs' ceiling is as high as Bijan's.
Fair enough. Kendra Miller, RB44, ADP of 157, so that puts him at the beginning of the 13th round, I believe. I don't know for sure. Sorry, I'm not good at math. Around 13th round.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you got to like it right there for the opportunity to really take over that backfield. Young, doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires, and who knows what's going on with Kamara and what's going on with not what's going on with Jamal Williams, but just how exactly that the opportunity share is going to turn out over there in New Orleans.
Yeah, and Williams isn't. I mean, he's not young, so even if Miller doesn't have it this year, like he is really young. By the time he's 23,
he'll be finishing up that rookie contract.
Yeah, and he's got all the opportunity in the world to be that guy.
All right, let me pull up the rest of these rookies. Well, I mean, I'll take the low-hanging fruit right here. One of these does not look like the others, and I'm going to go with Jonathan Mingo. People at wide receiver 67, we're talking about a guy who could easily be the wide receiver 1 in Carolina next year.
Probably will be.
Yeah, I mean, 6'2", 215. He's a very physical guy. I don't know, how much our listeners have done their research on Jonathan Mingo, but he's a very physical guy, and he's really, these smaller cornerbacks that he lines up with, it's going to make their lives hell.
Yeah.
I'm going to do just a quick little math right here. 175 divided by 12, that's 14 and a half. So, we're looking at the 14th round, somewhere in there, and that's easy money for me. I'm taking Jonathan Mingo there all day. I took him in the 10th round of a startup recently after the NFL draft because he's got the early draft capital. We look at Jonathan Mingo, and for me, you might think it's blasphemous, but I think his ceiling is T. Higgins. And, obviously it's a long shot, but we're looking at a wide receiver who's drafted in the 30s, early second round draft capital. And if you look at the guys who have early second round draft capital recently, you're looking at guys like T. Higgins, you're looking at guys like Michael Pittman. And really it's just playing the numbers game. One of these second round wide receivers are going to hit, whether it's going to be Mingo, Mims. I don't think Rice got second round capital or Downs. But yes, his production profile was bad, but give him some time to develop. He's linked up with Bryce Young for the next 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? I think it's a solid bet right there at this point of startups.
Yeah, he's one of the big targets for me. Him, and then go down a little ways. Chase Brown's another guy that I'm taking
Chase Brown at the RB61
shots at. But yeah, I like Mingo. I've gotten him in I think 3 rookie drafts already and 1 startup. And I mean, if he hits, I'm gonna look like a genius. If not, it's gonna be rough. But I think he will. I think he's gonna be at least like a top 20 receiver. But I think his ceiling's a lot higher than that.
I mean, it's just one of those things, right? You're getting in rookie drafts, you're getting Mingo at like 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've seen him go as late as 209. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's just a situation. Yes, the talent is questionable. It truly is. If you go look at the production profile, you're just going to be like, why? Why does this look like this? But obviously the NFL knows more than we do, and they have a plan. And paired up with Bryce Young for the foreseeable future, yeah, I'll take those chances. It's just more and more. Like, I didn't plan on Jonathan Mingo to be my guy. Like, I don't think anybody did at the beginning of the offseason, but here we are, you know. That's about it for today. Let's go ahead and wrap this up, man. I appreciate you so much for stopping by, hanging out, chatting with the boys in the comment section and listeners. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and plug yourself up one more time before we get out of here?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's great to be on. Great to be. I just love talking fantasy, love talking football. So anyone who wants to give me the opportunity to do that, I'm grateful for it. And yeah, once again, DeadZone_FF on Twitter. Going to be the Dead Zone Fantasy Show. I do have the channel up on YouTube. There are no videos yet, but you can jump over there and subscribe. Should be mid-July, I'd say, shortly after that 4th of July. I'll launch and start doing weekly shows, at least once a week. Gonna try to get twice a week during the season, so that we can hit start sits later on in the week and get on there like after the Monday night game or something to help with waivers and who to target there. But yeah, I'm excited to be a part of this Get Right network, and definitely probably have you on once or twice if you're willing to jump on during the season. And yeah, I'm just excited for football to get going.
Bring football back, please.
Yeah.
we got the NBA playoffs, and then we're just gonna be watching fast pitch baseball for like what, the next 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, in baseball that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Until September, I don't care about baseball. The first 100 games are pretty meaninless in my mind. So yeah, at least it's hot out and I can go do things.
Yeah.
During that.
Martin says good content, interesting takes. Hey, we appreciate it, man. I appreciate the support, the love, stopping by and hanging out with us. Sunday night you could be with family, but here we are talking football, fantasy football at that.
Yeah, jump over there, Dynasty Pylon. Check those guys out too. That's Martin from there. Especially if you love IDP. They got all that.
All that IDP content. The guys over at Dynasty Pylon, they're doing great things. Once again, shout out to Mike and Anthony. Anthony was in the chat earlier, and the guys over there at Get Right Fantasy Network. Make sure you give them a follow on Twitter at Get Right Fantasy. Make sure you give us a follow at Frontline_FF. My man, Adam, thank you for stopping by. Follow him on Twitter at DeadZone_FF.
Yeah, check out the pod on Apple.
That's about it.
I know you download on Apple and Spotify. So
yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. Everybody have a good week, and once again, I appreciate all the love, and peace out.
Peace, guys.